All right. Let's go.
I'm your host, Mimosa.
And co-host Kareem.
Welcome to Sometimes We're Bougie and Sometimes We Hood, to healing, navigating grief. It's a podcast dedicated to exploring the complex emotions of loss, the road to healing, and the strength found in remembrance.
All right.
Whoa, welcome in. Happy January, family, and welcome back to Sometimes We Bougie.
Sometimes we heard.
The podcast where we talk about grief the real way, not polished, not rushed, and not pretending everything is okay when it's not. I'm your host, Auntie Mimosa.
Yes, cousin Kareem. Here we go.
And whether you're in the thick of grief, learning how to carry it differently, or walking alongside someone you love who's hurting, this space is for you. So, because grief is personal, there's no timeline, no rule book, no right way to do it. And here, we don't try to fix grief, we make room for it. So, through shared stories, honest conversations, quiet moments of reflection, we remind ourselves that healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means learning how to live again while remembering. And grief isn't something that only shows up on anniversaries, at funerals. It rides with us to the grocery store. It sits with us in traffic. It shows up while folding laundry or when a song catches us off guard. Welcome in, TikTok, Facebook fam, Instagram fam. Welcome in, welcome in. And today we're talking about how grief shows up in the everyday, especially when life has shifted, when you've relocated, when things look new on the outside but feel unfamiliar on the inside. And I know some people, I don't know, just to put this out there, some people might wonder, like, where do we obtain our topics? How do we get our topics about grief? And many other topics that myself and cousin Kareem we talk about are the things we actually experience in everyday life. Okay. So grief and relocation, yes, this topic comes about due to my experience over the weekend with an individual who was relocated from one establishment, from one home to the new home, and wasn't quite happy about it. And it was an elderly individual. So I thought that would be a great topic for today. So let's take this time together. Let's slow down. Let's breathe. Let's be honest. And, like, unclench your jaw, drop your shoulders. You are in a safe place, right? And, if this is your first time here, this is a space where we talk about grief healing in real life without pretending everything is fine when it's not, right? So, and today we're talking about something that doesn't get enough attention: grief from relocating. Because somehow moving is supposed to be exciting, but nobody talks about how much it can hurt. Even if you've never ever moved and thought, why do I feel sad when this is supposed to be a blessing, right? Or it is a move that you want. Sometimes it's a move that you don't like. That's that's unwanted. It's a move that, you're like, oh man, do I have to do this? You know, welcome in everybody. Sometimes, and then among, I would say, there's several like types of relocation that happen that's unwanted, right? Eviction, and a lot of times with our elderly, they're forced to move due to health reasons, sanitary reasons. They become hoarders. Their homes is just not safe for them. So it's an unwanted move, right? Well, let me say this early, so it lands, right? You can grieve a place, right? You can grieve a neighborhood, a routine, people you still love and talk to, a version of yourself that existed there. Grief is not just about loss. Grief is about loss of attachment, right?
Mm.
And add relocation, that comes with loss. So even when the move was your idea or not your idea. So drop a heart, or, in the comments if you already resonate with this, like, share, let everyone know, Auntie Mimosa and Cousin Kareem, they really talking about something that's not talked about, and that's grief when it comes to relocation.
Yes.
So, Cousin Kareem, what are your thoughts about that? Tell me about that. What are you thinking?
I'm thinking like, I guess like me and you, like I was called nomadic years ago, because I'm just like, I'm out. I'll just pack my stuff and just bounce, and show up in a new city and be like, okay, what's going on? And then make my way around it. So it's, for me, like packing up and moving.
Uh-oh. Where did Cousin Kareem go? All right. Well, Cousin Kareem seems to be having some technical difficulties on his end. So, moving isn't just about boxes and furniture. You're also leaving behind I can't say familiarity, ease, being known, having roots, community that didn't require effort. Back home, you knew how to exist without thinking, right? Now, you got to figure everything out again. And listen, just because the new place is better doesn't mean it doesn't hurt, right? Two things can be true at the same time. You could be grateful and grieving. So keep that in mind. You could be grateful and grieving. Sometimes moving is exciting. It is really exciting. And people fail to remember, not fail to remember. Sometimes they think, oh, there's Cousin Kareem. Like a lot of times when people move, it's exciting. I would say, who would you say the individuals that move the most? I would say like individuals in the military, they move the most.
Yeah.
Cousin Kareem,
definitely.
right?
Every 3-4 years.
So with that in mind, and what were you saying? You said you before you was talking about you were called a nomad, about relocation.
Yeah, it's just I just move. I don't really hold. I haven't held a place too much concern except for Hawaii, and I guess because it just costs so much to move out here and move back. I did it once for 1 year, literally 1 year and 4 days, and I came right back. But I'm looking to move again, to be honest with you, and I'm looking to find out where that is. But now I have a family, so it's not as easy, to just move. But
right,
I gotta deal with them. The kids I'm not really worried about. It's just more the wife, really, because
okay.
be
and why is that?
she's got to be in tune with it. She's got to be up to it. You know, she's got to be agreeing in it with it. You know, yeah.
So you say you're not worried about the kids so much. Do you think because you think with when it comes to the children and relocation, which a lot of people move, have smaller kids or teenagers and they move with children, do you think it's just a matter of, oh, the kids can bounce back easy, or they make new friends easy, versus when it comes to the adults in life and the mindset of, I'm familiar here in this location because this is where my friends are, this is where my girlfriends are, this is where my revenue generation is, whether it's employment, business, what have you, this is where my social life is. Do you think that, from adults and from a children's standpoint, that when it comes to grieving, moving, or relocation, that for children it might be a little easier? I think I lost because I'm up.
There we go.
There you go.
Froze
Okay.
up. So I missed what you just said, the last part.
Oh, I was asking, right. Do you think it's easier for kids? Do you think it's easier for children when it comes to relocation versus adults?
I think so. Because they're just introduced to a new set of friends. My oldest is about to graduate, so it would be after that. But if I was to move, but my middle one is just entering middle school, and she's the extrovert. Okay. So I think she would just make friends wherever she goes. She has this like drawing effect. She just draws people to her no matter what she's involved in. So, and she's tiny. She's petite, I should say. But she's like Mighty Mouse. She doesn't care about anybody's perceptions about her because she'll tell you straight, I'm not like that. I'll say it again. And they'll be like, oh, okay. They never heard anything like that except from an adult. And she acts like a mini adult. So, and then my son is he's 2 years younger than her. He's just happy-go-lucky. He doesn't really care about anybody's opinion. So,
gotcha.
I just bounce off of him. So,
okay.
Yeah.
I think it'll be fine. You think the kids will be fine? Okay. So let's talk about the fact that like nobody names relocation as grief, right? So here's why people dismiss this kind of grief, right? Because nothing bad happened, right? When you relocate, nobody transitioned, nothing exploded. You're still alive, moving around. So people say things like, at least you moved up or moved on. You'll make new friends. Just give it time. And while that might all be true, it doesn't help like right in that moment when you've relocated. Grief doesn't respond to logic. Grief doesn't respond to being seen and validated, right?
Yeah.
So, hey, welcome in TikTok fam. So, like, did you experience grief when you moved to Hawaii?
Yeah, I did. 2 years after I moved here, my mom passed. Like right after her birthday. And it was like whoa, like what just happened? And then what was crazy was this is 99. My daughter was born in 08.
Okay.
And my daughter, my oldest, was born on the same day my mom transitioned.
Right. Okay.
So one has a death date, the other has a birthday. Birthday is simultaneously right on top of each other. And it was strange to me because she had never met her grandmother.
Right.
And we just have pictures around the house. They don't look like each other, nothing like that, and it's just a strange occurrence.
Right, right.
I was
Okay.
at different parts of my life. Like I lost my mom, like it changed my life. Then I have
Mm-hmm.
my first daughter after having my two sons,
Right.
and that changed my life. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it was it was hard to accept and think about
Right.
at the beginning, and then years later, it was harder to accept and to keep moving on. And like
Mm-hmm.
one other part of my life, but that was it. It only affected me twice in my life. When she was born, actually, it
Right.
wasn't when she was born. It was maybe like a couple of months after she was born that I
Mm-hmm.
realized I was trying to put together the significance of having my daughter born on my mother's death day,
Transition day. Right.
transition day, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what was confusing to me. It was like, but my daughter is, as she's growing up, ever since she was 12, when she
Mm-hmm.
came into her teenage years or so, 13, 12,
Mm-hmm.
she's been so mature and so guided in her way.
Mm-hmm.
Like nothing can disrupt her from where she's going
Right.
mentally, spiritually, I think.
Right.
It's like I see my mom in her
Okay.
because she doesn't get disheveled. She doesn't get just swayed. You know, she's just move on, move on, just keep on going.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, it's she takes on the ambivert of me. If you know what an ambivert is, it's somebody in between extrovert and introvert. You're ambivert. That's what.
Right.
Yeah, and you act as an introvert when you're by yourself, but then when you're around people, you can be
Mm-hmm.
an extrovert. But then once those people are gone, you whoop, right back in being an
No.
introvert.
Right back in your shell, right?
Yep.
So let's talk about like how grief shows up in relocation, right? Like you said, when you move, and I'm trying to, I've relocated several times. And when I think about the relocation, let's talk about like symptoms of how it shows up, right? Feeling tired all the time, snapping over little things, like wanting to isolate, feeling lonely even around people, anxiety, sadness you cannot explain, and not feeling grounded in that. And because you think you should be happy, you don't let yourself feel it. But grief, you don't name it. Because you don't name it, it doesn't disappear, right? It just sits and waits.
Mm.
It just sits and wait for you. So with that being said, like I think about the times that I've relocated, right? At 16, I left New York, um, angry teenager, right? Uh Definitely grieve that experience when I reflect back to that time. Um think about the the transition in teens going from home to college. It's a new experience, right? It's supposed to be a new experience. It's supposed to be a welcomed experience. You're in this whole new environment with whole new experiences coming forth, and
Yeah.
you have anxiety because now you have to navigate this new terrain, this new territory, these new people, when you move to a new state. I experienced that moving to North Carolina. Even moving back here to Atlanta, I experienced that as well. Having to, it was a welcome move, it was a wanted move. And but it was just like, oh man, I got to start all over again.
Mm.
I have to start all over again. I have to start all over again. And it was a welcome start. But there were things that was like, oh, will you look back? Do you want to go back? I can say I do not want to go back. There are some things I do miss about, living in New York, living in North Carolina, but do I want to go back? No. Um, and to think about it, like the upcoming move, we talk about, living in Arizona, right? So yeah,
Yeah.
that's a future move. That is a wanted move. But of course, will there be grief behind that? I'm sure it will. And not grief from from like a nagging standpoint of grief, but a grief from, oh, I miss my old, now I have a new, and now again I have to start over, even though it's a welcome and wanted start over, right?
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to switch gears because I thought about this, right? And I said, okay, you all know TikTok, Facebook, Instagram viewers, YouTube. You all know. If you know Auntie Mimosa, you know that I do not think the same way that other people think. I'm very much my own person. I'm very much my own individual. And the thought that came to me in thinking about this topic, and like I said, the topic came from what I experienced this weekend with an elderly client that had to relocate from their old home to a new home where it's very much cleaner, new opportunity, healthier space. But this is the thought. This is what came to me in a conversation at this facility. And it was a conversation that came up about the biblical perspective of Lot and his wife and the family having to vacate Sodom and Gomorrah, right? And that looking back, Lot's wife looking back and turning into a pillar of salt. Now, some people really take that literally, okay? However, I'm going to utilize it metaphorically, right? With this. So, of course, we know in the Bible there is a brief, but it's a powerful story in Genesis about Lot's wife. And as she and her family flee Sodom and Gomorrah, they're warned like not to look back. But Lot's wife, she turns around, she looks back, and she's turned into a pillar of salt, right? So traditionally, this story has been taught about, warning against the disobedience, attachment to sin, and like longing for a past that God is destroying, right? But when we I want to look at the story through a different lens. I want to look at the story through the lens of grief and relocation, and something deeper comes out of this, something deeper emerges, right? Because sometimes looking back isn't rebellion, right? Sometimes looking back is grief. I'm going to say that again. Sometimes looking back isn't rebellion. Sometimes looking back is grief, right? When you relocate, and relocation grief works the same way. When we move, whether by choice, necessity, or force, we are often told to look forward, right? Embrace the new. Don't dwell on the past. And society, like the angels in the story, urges us to keep moving forward, right? But grief doesn't move on command, does it?
No.
It does not. It does not. It does not move on command. Grief is like that roller coaster ride, right? Auntie Mimosa has to take a sip of her tea before I keep going. And yes, this is tea. It's mango tea, as a matter of fact. Green tea with mango, with honey, ground cloves, ground ginger, and cinnamon. Yes. So Auntie
And we
Mimosa.
just found out out here. We just found out out here that mango tea. It was like, man,
tea, love tea. So if anybody, Auntie Mimosa's a tea drinker, love her tea, and I'll make all kind of teas. But anyway, back to where we were. All right. So grief doesn't move on command. Lot's wife wasn't just leaving a city; she was leaving her home, her community, her memories, her sense of identity, and the life she knew. And that is what happens quite often when we relocate, right? And even if Sodom was floored, it was still familiar. And it was the familiarity creates attachment, right? And in grief psychology, this grief is called attachment rupture, right? It's the pain that comes when something deeply known is suddenly taken away, right? The body and the heart lag behind the feet, right? So, like we talk about attachment rupture, baby, mommy, right? Separation. Take that bottle from that baby, and that baby is going to scream bloody murder, right?
Right.
Okay. So Lot's wife looking back, she's not looking back because she wants the destruction, but because something in her is still bonded to what she's leaving. And salt symbolically, which is interesting, it preserves, salt holds memory, and it comes from tears, if you didn't know that. So just FYI, right? So to become a pillar of salt can be read not just as punishment, but as grief crystallized, grief that had nowhere to go, grief that was not allowed to express, and grief that froze her in place. Relocation grief can do the same thing to us, right? When people move, again, they're told, don't look back. This chapter's over. Be grateful. God is doing new things for you. This is, an opportunity. Their grief doesn't disappear. It hardens, especially if they have no one to talk to about it, especially if there's no one that they can confide in and listen to about this, right? They may become emotionally stuck, functioning outwardly, but intentionally frozen between where they were and, where they are now. So just like Lot's wife, her body, Lot's wife, their body was moved forward, but the heart was still behind them. It was still there, right? And the story also reveals something about timing. Right? The command was to flee quickly. There was no space for mourning, no ritual, no goodbye, no processing. And that kind of forced relocation, sudden, urgent, emotionally unsupported, is exactly what we see today in displacement, gentrification, elder relocation, immigration, job-related moves, and loss after disaster or someone transition, right? So when grief is rushed, it doesn't heal faster. It congeals. Okay, it solidifies. And what if, question, something to ponder, think about, and this is a conversation piece for you all. What if Lot's wife needed a moment to grieve what was ending? What if the lesson isn't never look back, but rather don't stay stuck in what you lost, but don't deny that it mattered either? I'm going to ask those again. What if the lesson, right? What if Lot's wife needed a moment to grieve what was ending? And what if the lesson isn't never look back, but rather don't stay stuck in what you lost, but don't deny that it mattered? Hey, TikTok fam, Instagram fam, Facebook fam, YouTube fam. Hey. Healthy relocation spiritually and emotionally requires both permission to grieve what was and support to step into what's next. Looking
Mm.
back doesn't mean you want to return, it means you're human. And perhaps the tragedy of Lot's wife is not that she looked back, but that she had to grieve alone, silently, and in motion. Right? I'm going to say that again. Perhaps the tragedy of Lot's wife wasn't that she needed to look back, but she needed to grieve alone, silently, and in motion.
Mm.
Relocation grief asks us to do the same thing different, to look back with compassion, to honor what shaped us, and then to move forward like pretending it didn't cost us anything. Because grief doesn't mean you lack faith, it means you love deeply. And love always leaves salt behind. Always. Right? When we think about it, love always leaves salt behind.
But
So
how
when
did
you're
it leave salt in your life?
think about it. Think about it. Like, I mean, these are just, and this is honest, like thought provoking questions and reflections. Think about that. What do you say, Cousin Kareem?
Yeah. I know when that short time that year that I went to Pennsylvania,
Mm-hmm.
I looked at life differently because I
Mm-hmm.
moved out there to go do work, go build something with somebody, and that person had no clue what they wanted to do. But they
Mm-hmm.
waited till I got there. I left Hawaii to move to Pennsylvania, of places, to tell me that they didn't know what they wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
They hadn't thought about it. They didn't think about what kind of partnership that they wanted to do with me. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, so me moving out here was for nothing, and it ruined our relationship. You know, so when I moved back a couple of years later, the relationship had fell apart.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I don't regret it because it was literally a waste of my time to move up there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I had to. It's like God let it happen because I had to see it, who he was from the time that I met him,
Mm-hmm.
like 15, like 12 years before that. It's just like there was something that was there that wasn't there. But I was trying to make that something appear
Mm-hmm.
out of nowhere.
Right.
Not trying to be all cliches, but that's just basically what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing to sit back and regret on. There's nothing to sit back and wish that it never happened. It's good that it happened because it'll never happen again.
Right.
But it was just a lesson that had to be learned.
Okay.
But I felt like a little bit like Lot, I guess, in a way, because I was looking back at the situation and felt through it, and it held me in a space that literally took like 2 years to get out of.
Mm-hmm.
And if I had reflected back on it properly, I probably would have never let that happen. If I had thought on her situation, like my situation, and been like, nah, bump that. But I just went on with life until finally it hit me like boom. You just need to do something else. You need to do something else. And just continue moving because you're sitting stagnant.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a waste of time. It was a waste of time.
Right.
But yeah, I look back on other things.
Right. So when you're looking back, you're not looking back as a form. Like now, here's a reflective question.
Okay.
like, did your gut tell you not to move? Did you have one of those moments where it was, should I move or should I not move? Did you have one of those and something told you don't go and you went anyway?
No, so when I moved, I was trying to bounce
Mm-hmm.
because it was. Oh, I can't really say this, but it was imperative for me to move for the sake
Okay.
of saving somebody else
Okay.
that I really don't care about. But
Right.
it was either they go or I go. So I
Mhm.
decided to go. Put it like that. And so I left. And everything happened. So everything happened. Everything made its way literally 3 weeks. From the
Mhm.
first thought of moving to
Okay.
me getting on the airplane. It was
Right.
3 weeks. And in a lot of ways, I didn't even ask, like, I did ask, should I go, should I not go? But everything was moving so fast paced. I was like, oh, this must be it. So I just went with it.
Mhm.
And then I got out there. And the reason I came back was my son, you know, and asked me why did I move. And I was like, huh. You know, one of those situations where like I didn't really have to leave. I just had to adjust or handle the situation I was dealing with,
Right.
especially after what I was dealing with over there.
Gotcha.
And that's why I came back. After I talked to him, which was on my birthday, that
Mhm.
same year that I left, I made plans to come right back. And I made it from nothing to something.
Mhm.
I literally came back with $27 in my pocket. And I made a life after that. It was like, most people can't say like $27. What was you thinking? You didn't have nothing like that. But I made it through. The
Right.
resilience, the resilience officer. That's what that I am, man. I made it through. I made it happen.
Right.
And
So what did you experience with that? Like when you moved to Pennsylvania, what were your feelings? Like what were you feeling? What was your heart telling you? Like the same thing, like when you moved to Hawaii, what were your feelings? What was your heart telling you about this move? Like, did you feel any anxiety? Did you have moments where you were snappy? Did you feel like you were tired and not like understanding and knowing like where this tired feeling came from before your mindset and your body adjusted and you were kind of finished with grieving the relocation to say, okay, you know what, I'm here, let me get it going, let me get this life started? Like, do you remember or do you recall feeling that way? Do you have any recollection of any of that?
yeah, I think I'm moving back here. I had some thoughts of like, how's it gonna be moving back here? I was a little bit frustrated with the person
Mm-hmm.
I was. When I was moving back, I didn't really know what was gonna happen. I said I moved back here with $27 in my pocket. I was supposed to live with this guy, you know what I mean, and moved in with him, and he had like two other people living. Like, what the frick is going on? So it was like a question, you
Mm-hmm.
know. It was a question with my girl. It was a question with him. It was just a lot of questions. But you know what I did was I put everything to the side. I said, when I'm at work, I'm at work.
Mm-hmm.
When I get off, then I'll have time to think about it. Maybe that wasn't the right thing to do, but it helped me
Mm-hmm.
put things in a proper place because I
Right.
need to focus and concentrate on my work to get
Mm-hmm.
out of that place and to start earning money.
Okay.
And that's what I did. I did that for like the first 3 months. And then I was in a homeless situation for like 2 days, moved
Mm-hmm.
in with my cousin and his wife, which was crazy, for a week. And then I moved in with somebody else who I'm trying not to get too graphic, but
That was a lot of relocation going on.
yeah, it was.
Relocation going on.
I moved into an apartment with this lady
Person.
that I had.
Uh-huh. A person.
Yeah,
Okay.
uh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Just let's just leave it at that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then I stayed there for 2 years, and I got my life together. You
So
know,
in that, would you okay, so what you explained just then was you had a moment or moments where you had to relocate to several places.
yeah,
However, because you were young, right? At that time, you were able to focus on your work to build yourself back up and to propel yourself forward, right?
right.
Okay, let's switch. What about somebody who's elderly who can't do that?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
a hard track. You can't when you can't move and make those moves because of your age. It it's a dwelling proposition. It's
So,
a it's really
yes,
hard, difficult.
it is. It is. Okay, welcome TikTok fam, Instagram fam, Facebook fam, YouTube fam. Welcome, welcome in everybody. We're talking about relocation and grief. Cousin Kareem and I here on Sometimes We Bougie, Sometimes We Hood. So we're shifting gears to talk about elderly grief and relocation. Now, this is much more common than most people tend to realize, right? So, as I said, we're going to pause because this part really matters, right? Let's talk about our elders. For older adults, relocation is rarely just a move, okay? It can feel like loss of control, loss of independence, loss of dignity, and loss of purpose,
Yes.
especially when the move wasn't their own choice.
Yeah. I can give you a perfect example about that.
Go.
So I had this older woman. She was an attorney, and she helped me considerably. She was a customer. And I realized this is that I've made like 5 friends out of my customers over in car sales.
Okay.
And she was one of them, but this
Right.
is coming in her later years. She was approaching like 80, but she had moved into this place, and the place was not bad. It was a 2 bedroom, and
Mm-hmm.
but then she said her daughter came over here for a second, and then talked to her, and she's like, "Yeah, I want to bring mom back to Texas with me,
Mm-hmm.
and so she can just live her life without having to stress about paying bills and all that kind of stuff. She can just live with me." And at first, I didn't get it. She didn't tell me that her mother had Alzheimer's, so I didn't see that, but then I started to notice it, like the brain farts or whatever you want to call them. And I'm like, and it was at one point where me and her got into an argument because I'm not even an argument. I just said, look, you can't just be using me to help you pack your stuff because, I'm younger than you. You need to like take my life into consideration. She goes, oh, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what is going on? I'm talking to her daughter. She's like, oh, she has Alzheimer's. I'm like, oh crap! I didn't even. So here I am going off on this lady who has Alzheimer's. So anyway, she moved. I helped her pack up and move. Helped her put stuff to be moved. Pay for a lot of this stuff to like tune of like $900. Actually, it was $1,200. Helped her move her stuff off the island. And then I call her up like a year and a half later, and she died.
She transitioned.
Excuse me. Yeah, she transitioned. And so it was like, wow. You know what I mean? It's just like I didn't know it could escalate that fast. And
So and that is true. It does, it can. It does and it can escalate. It can very much escalate very quickly. Just like with my grandmother, right? We bought, during the pandemic, my grandmother got sick. Well, almost like kind of like middle toward the end of it. Um, we ended up bringing her from New York to Georgia in that February, March. Yeah, because it was kind of weather was starting to warm up. She was with us, what, March, April, May, June, July, August. Yeah, she was with us about 7 months before her transition. Okay. So, and this is what we have to remember when, we often joke that as we age out, we become the parents and our parents become our children, right? And a lot of elders do not complain, they just comply,
Yeah.
right? They'll say, I'm fine, whatever y'all think is best. But inside, they are grieving deeply, and you may hear them say, oh, I want to go home. I want to go back to my place. I want to be around my, in my environment. Because you have to remember, they lost homes that they raised families in. They lost neighbors that they've known for decades, routines that kept them orientated, and spaces where they felt useful, right?
Right.
And a lot of times, family members, they'll say they'll adjust. But what we call, or as family members, what we call adjustment, our elders are experiencing, or they may experience what's called mourning. Okay.
The complete change. That
It's
complete
complete
change.
change. And this grief can show up as depression, confusion, withdrawal, irritability, and physical decline. And this is real. It is very, very real. And it's called relocation stress syndrome,
Mm.
RSS. And telling an elderly person that this is for your own good doesn't erase the grief. It deepens it, right? So and you have to give them time.
Yeah.
You have to prepare them, because relocation is stressful enough on a young person who's healthy, or younger individual that's healthy, vibrant, and it's stressful enough. Now imagine being an elderly person with some health issues, and you're being taken out of the environment that you are familiar with. You're taken away from your norm, from your routine, and you're placed someone else because your family think it's best.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Right? And you have to readjust to that. So what is needed with our elderly when it comes to relocation, when it comes to making that move? What is needed? One, to be included in the decision. Don't, if you don't just make because you feel family, because you feel it's the right thing to do. If they are in their right mind and they can talk about it and they can help and make this decision, include them in the decision process. Include them, talk to them, explain to them what's going on, ask them their input before you start moving and taking things away from them, especially their belongings. Acknowledge their grief. Acknowledge their grief.
Yeah, I think people must acknowledge that they don't even want to acknowledge that they could be part of grief. That's
acknowledge it.
Another issue.
And they need preserved routines, right? Routines that are preserved. They need familiar belongings nearby, permission to mourn without being rushed. Because a lot of times what takes place is that When an elderly person is relocated from one location to the next or from the old to the new location, you will see some decline there. And sometimes the family is like, oh, you need to get with it, or they need to do this, and or they need to do that. And if you just gently urge them to do that, give them time to adjust.
Time and space, yeah.
Give them space, give them time to adjust, right? And caregivers, hear this gently, please. Hear this gently. Compliance does not equal acceptance.
Yeah.
I'm going to say this again for the people in the back. Compliance does not equal acceptance.
Yeah. Just because, that's a good one. Because that's because I think that the compliance part comes because they're supposed to be the older, mature person compared to a child. So they're just doing it because not to make an argument. Same thing happened to grandma. It's just like she was at my Uncle Harold's place and she ran into a stroke. My uncle's wife sent the ambulance back. Then the ambulance, she ain't no dead. Calm down for a second. She wasn't a medical professional. She was in the banking industry. This dumb bitch told the ambulance, you don't need to come because she just having she just having heartburn. Right. Then she called back. The same ambulance came to the house. Was like, if you had came, let us come the 15 minutes earlier, we probably could have saved this woman.
Right.
So that's crazy.
It is. And if you're not a healthcare professional, again, caregivers, hear this gently. Compliance does not equal acceptance. Check in emotionally, not just logistically, with your elders.
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to say that again for the ones in the back of the room. Compliance does not equal acceptance, and check in emotionally, not just logistically. If you, caregivers, again, hear this gently, if you are not familiar with the caretaking process of an elderly individual, there are agencies and people out here that can help you. Okay. And because elder care is very different from child care.
Yes.
I'm going to say that again. Elder care is very different from child care. Okay. There are agencies in place. There are people in place. There are people who are natural caregivers at heart. They understand the mindset. They understand the elder stress. They understand what it's like for an elderly person to be taking out of their environment. And a lot of times what does take place is when you have an elderly individual whom is taking out of their in their environment that they're familiar with, that they are surrounded with, yes, depression sets in, irritability sets in, confusion comes. Okay. So you have to be patient. You have to be patient. You have to be patient with them. Okay. And if anything, keep them in their surroundings as long as possible, permitting safety. And I say that very clearly, safety. Okay. So if they're in a home and it's not healthy, it's not conducive health wise, where they may be hoarding, keeping lots of food, again, either check in weekly, 2 to 3 times a week, throw food away, check expiration dates. If they're starting to hoard, get with them, talk to them about throwing things in the garbage, cleaning up, keeping the home clean. And again, bring somebody in. Bring somebody in. There are too many agencies out here that can help with this. So, yes, keep them in, bring them in. Okay. It's too many agencies out here. for that people for elder care. Bring them in, because it takes, like I said, it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to care for the elderly. Okay, so bring them in. Um, how do we cope? What do we do? Right? When it comes to that. And I'm still on the relocation, with when it comes to grieving. So what do we do? First, name the grief. And I say this all the time. It is not just about grief in the relocation. Name it. Any kind of grief you have. TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, family, name your grief. Recognize it. Say it out loud. I'm grieving this move. I'm grieving the loss of my father. I'm grieving the loss of my mother. I'm grieving the loss because it's the holidays. I'm grieving the loss because it's an anniversary. I'm grieving the loss because it's a reminder. I'm angry because of the move. I'm angry because of this loss. I'm angry. I'm frustrated. Whatever it is, give it a name. Say it out loud. Right? 2, don't rush yourself. Do not rush yourself. Healing doesn't follow moving truck timelines. Right? Yes. Healing, it doesn't follow moving truck guidelines. I'm sorry, timelines. Right? Healing doesn't, and I say this all the time. Remember what I say? TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, what I say. Healing and grief, it knows no timeline, no rule book, no right way. Healing does not follow moving truck timelines. It doesn't have a checklist, right? Pace yourself. Family, caregivers, when working with that elderly individual that they're moving, give them time to adjust. We always want what's best for anyone in our family. We want what's best for them, but we also have to give them time. We have to give them space. Okay. We have to give them a moment to breathe, recognize what's going on with them. Right?
Right.
Third, recreate the familiarity. Recreate it. Photos, smells, music, food, routines, right? When you move into a new location. I remember hearing this story about a young lady in the military. She was a military wife, right? And because her and her husband, because they moved, her and her, she moved so often with the family. Whenever she moved, the first thing she took out, or the first thing she looked for, and I'm the same way, this is funny though. The first thing she put up, she looked for, was her box of curtains. Regardless of what the movers were bringing in, she wanted her box of curtains first and foremost. And once she received her box of curtains, she would start putting the curtains up, because the curtains were familiar to her and they brought familiarity and routine to the new place. Okay. I'm the same way. And the reason I say the same way, not about the curtains, but I have an entertainment center, right? And out of all of my many moves around, the first thing I tell the movers, right? When I have the movers, I tell them the entertainment center goes last. That's the last thing on the truck. And I want the entertainment center to be the first thing off the truck. Now, my entertainment center can be broken all the way down. And if I can get it in my vehicle, I'm going to put it in my car, try to put it in my car. But sometimes it can't, the few times I moved, it couldn't go in my car. So I had to go into the moving truck. So I told them, I want the entertainment center to be the last thing on the truck and the first thing off the truck for me. Because what I do is I put it together. I didn't want them to put it together. I don't want anybody to touch my entertainment center to put it together, because that's for me. That is my familiarity. That is my routine. That's what makes my home for me to put my entertainment center together. And some people have that routine. There's certain things they look for that they want from home. that makes it more familiar. Again, photos, smells, music, food, routines. And when it comes to our elderly and children, find things that they really, really like, that they enjoy, to make home feel like home, right?
Yeah.
The fourth thing is stay connected intentionally. Stay connected intentionally, right?
That's big.
And that is big. We all get into these routines. We all get busy. Life's, right? Sometimes life will make it to where 1 + 1 does not equal 2. They will make 1 + 1 equal 5, and we'll be all over the place trying to figure it out. But stay connected intentionally. We talk about that. If you have friends, if an elderly person has friends or family that they can stay connected to, let them talk to that person.
Yeah, we'll keep them grounded and centered.
Right. Let them talk to, if they have transportation, if they can go back to the old location where there is an activity, a church service, I don't know, bingo, what else do they, have lunch or dinner once in a while with, and go back, just to give them that warmth of, this is, I'm connected, this is how I stay connected. And sometimes we do that as people, right? When we leave an employer or leave a job, we have a tendency to go back. Oh, we just wanted to say hi, check in. Sometimes you keep in contact with your coworkers or old neighbors, and to hold on to that, right? But for our elderly, keep routines, let them tell their stories, refrain from correcting their emotions, and bring pieces of the home with them if you can. Sometimes you cannot, right? Sometimes you just can't do it. Sometimes whatever they may have in the home is just not feasible to be, brought over, depending on what the condition of it is, right? But if they can have it, if they can have something from their old home in the new space, let them have it, because it gives them a sense of groundedness. It gives them a sense of everything is not taken away from me. Because, and that's what we find. And I hear that a lot of times in conversation with the elderly, because I'm in that community. A lot of times they feel like, because they were removed from one location from the original home, they may have had to downsize that, or they were in a facility, they went from home to a facility, that everything was taken away from them and they don't have anything, or they're put in an environment where everything is new, nothing, like very little to minimum items are there that belong to them. And they're like, this is not my home. This is not my space, because nothing here is mine. Nothing here belongs to me. And that's important. You have to give them that sense of belonging, right?
Yeah.
Because right. So, and I keep that in mind, that grief doesn't need fixing, it needs witness. Right? It doesn't. Right? Grief doesn't need fixing, it needs witness. Again, name your emotion, name what you're feeling in that moment of grief. Identify it, give it a name, call it what it is. Call it what it is. All righty. Cousin Kareem, do you have any final thoughts as we prepare to close?
Nope. Nothing I can think of.
Nothing that you can think of. All righty.
It'll come. Yeah.
Well, I want to say, thank you to everyone who's listened today on the TikTok, the Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. And I see that I have Mr. Chanticleer, Miss Erica listen today. And they gave the comment. They said, hi, Mimi, you are amazing all the way around. We love the way you approach caregiving. Your proactive, fundamental, empathetic approach is top tier. Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Chanticleer and Miss Erica. Thank you very much. And just in closing, I want to say, if nobody has ever told you yet, allow me to say it clearly. And I've said this before. You're not weak for missing what you left. Okay? You're not ungrateful. You didn't fail the move. Okay? You're not weak for missing what you left. You're not ungrateful, and you didn't fail the move. Okay? Something mattered. And grief is love with nowhere to go. I always say this. Grief is love with nowhere to go. It's the love for that person, that item, that place, that thing that you cannot pour into it anymore. It has nowhere to go. And here's an affirmation for you. I honor what I left without rushing what's next. I honor what I left without rushing what's next. So say that to yourself. If you find that you're grieving, you're in a move, or you're in between a transition from one place to the next, you're a caregiver caring for the elderly, tell that person to say, I honor what I left without rushing what's next. It's about taking time. It's about patience. It's about being, completely honest and transparent with yourself and those around you. It's about telling family, please don't rush me in my adjustment phase. Allow me to get, as I said, get right? Allow me time to make this adjustment. Allow me a moment to get into a new routine. Allow me the opportunity, and this is what we have to remember as caregivers and family, as I say, the child parent, right? Allow your person, your elderly, your mother, aunt, uncle, friend, whomever, give them time to adjust and create a new routine and to get used to the atmosphere. Because if you push too hard, that depression, that anxiety, the confusion, the rebellion, they will give you pushback. It will come. It will come. If today's episode resonated with you, we'd truly love to hear from you, whether you want to share our story, reflect out loud, or simply let us know how grief has shaped your journey. Your voice matters here with us. Like this video, share it with someone who just transitioned, moved, had to move. Drop a comment if relocation grief is something you're have experienced, know somebody who's experienced. And if you know someone who might need this conversation, please share this episode with them. Sometimes healing starts with, I thought of you when I heard this. Say it again. Sometimes healing starts with, I thought of you when I heard this. You can connect with us on Instagram, Queen of Life Empowerment, or SBSH Grief Podcast. Facebook, Sometimes We Bougie, Sometimes We Hood. TikTok, Sometimes We Bougie, Sometimes We Hood. And our email address is the whole thing. Sometimes we're bougie, and that's BOUJEE. Sometimes we're hood at gmail.com. And yes, today Auntie Mimosa did it hood. I had to have the bonnet on today, guys. We keep it real. It is what it is. We keep it very real. Cousin Kareem and I keep it very, very real.
Yes, we do.
We would genuinely love to hear from you. And if you're caring for an elder who needed to relocate, check on their heart, not their schedule. I'm going to say it one more time. If you're caring for an elder who relocated, check on their heart, not their schedule. We have some exciting developments coming up this year, like some workshops, grief workbooks. So be on the lookout for your safe space to healing with Auntie Mimosa. And until next time, be kind to yourself, hold space for your emotions, and remember, you are never alone on this journey. Take gentle care of yourself. You are carrying the most beautiful, beautiful love there is. You don't have to walk this road alone in silence. Your love and your light still matters. This has been Sometimes We Bougie, Sometimes We Hood. I'm Auntie Mimosa.
Hey, Cousin Kareem.
Take care of yourself and don't rush your healing. Remember,
Yes,
we're on every Sunday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a great day. Have a good evening. And stay warm.
Enjoy.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Peace.
It's a podcast dedicated to exploring the complex emotions of loss, the road to healing, and the strength found in remembering.